The following content has been generated with artificial intelligence under minimal human supervision. The data presented may contain errors or inaccuracies. The opinions expressed in this content do not necessarily reflect the vision, position, or values of DigiAll. We recommend verifying critical information with additional sources before making decisions based on this content.
Welcome to DigiAll Tech News. Today is Thursday, December 25th, 2025. I'm Kylie Brooks, and yes, we're doing tech news on Christmas Day, because apparently the tech world doesn't take holidays. And honestly, some of these stories are too big to wait. This is where technology becomes clear and engaging. First up, Nvidia just dropped $20 billion on a startup called Grok. Yeah, you heard that right. 20 billion. Then we've got a fascinating conversation about Gen Z and what's being called AI anxiety. Spoiler, it's not what you think. Waymo is testing Google's Gemini AI as your chatty robotaxi companion. I'm not sure if I want my self-driving car to small talk with me, but let's see. Cybersecurity teams are on high alert this holiday season because hackers apparently don't celebrate Christmas either. And finally, a deeply concerning story about AI-generated images and mental health that we really need to talk about. Let's start with this Nvidia Grok deal because it's absolutely massive. Yesterday, on Christmas Eve, Nvidia confirmed they're acquiring the assets of Grok for about $20 billion in cash. To put that in perspective, this is Nvidia's biggest acquisition ever. Their previous record? The Israeli chip designer Mellanox back in 2019 for about $7 billion. So yeah, they're more than tripling that. Now, Grok is a 9-year-old startup that designs high-performance AI accelerated chips. And here's what makes this interesting. Grok was founded by former Google engineers, including CEO Jonathan Ross, who actually created Google's Tensor processing unit. You know the thing that competes with Nvidia? So Nvidia is basically acquiring talent and IP from one of their competitors' origins. Just last September, Grok raised $750 million at a valuation of about $7 billion. Now they're being acquired for almost 3 times that. The deal is structured as a non-exclusive licensing agreement, which means Grok's tech is going to Nvidia, along with Ross and other senior leaders, but Grok will continue operating independently under a new CEO. Nvidia's Jensen Huang described this as expanding their AI factory architecture, with Grok's low-latency processors for real-time inference. Translation: Nvidia is getting faster at making AI responses happen instantly. This is a big strategic move in the AI chip wars. Now let's talk about Gen Z and AI, because I think we're getting this completely wrong. Kiara Nogin, who's the 24-year-old co-founder and CTO of an applied AI lab called Shima, spoke at Fortune Brainstorm AI in San Francisco, and she had some really sharp insights. First, she pushed back hard on this idea that Gen Z uses AI as a shortcut or cheat code. She calls that the biggest misconception. Instead, she says Gen Z is growing up fluent in AI like it's a native language. They're not adopting it, they're just speaking it. And that fundamentally changes how they write, how they test ideas, how they apply for jobs. They're not starting from scratch every time. They're collaborating with AI agents side by side. And honestly, I think she's right. The lazy critique doesn't hold up when you think about what's actually happening. Intelligent users are offloading the menial cognitive work to AI so they can focus on deeper thinking. Like, if you automate creating financial market reports, you free up time to actually analyze what those numbers mean. That's not lazy, that's smart. But here's where it gets interesting. Nogin talks about AI anxiety, which she compares to climate anxiety. And it's not about shortcuts, it's about obsolescence. These models, she says, are as dumb as they're ever going to be. The next one could be 10 times better overnight. So if you're not staying on top of updates, you risk being left behind. That's the real pressure Gen Z feels. And her final point, as AI commoditizes intelligence, taste becomes the new metric for human value. A coding agent might add sparkle emojis everywhere if you don't guide it. Human judgment, human-centered taste, that's what will differentiate success. I find this whole conversation fascinating because it shifts the frame completely. All right, Waymo is testing something kind of fun, kind of weird. They're putting Google's Gemini AI chatbot inside their robotaxis as an in-car assistant. Researcher Jane Manchun Wong found this by digging through the Waymo mobile app code and discovered over 1,200 lines of system prompts for something called the Waymo Ride Assistant Meta Prompt. So what does it do? Basically, it's a friendly AI companion that answers questions, manages in-cabin features like climate control, temperature, lighting, music, and offers reassurance if you need it. It greets you by your first name on the in-car screen using data from your trip history. Very personalized. Now there are limits. It can't control volume, change routes, adjust seats, or open windows. If you ask for something it can't do, it'll say, quote, "It's not something I can do yet." Which is kind of charming, actually. It also makes a point to distinguish itself from the Waymo driver, which is the autonomous driving tech. So if you ask about how the car drives, it redirects. It won't speculate on events, won't comment on competitors like Tesla or Cruise, and it handles general knowledge questions like weather or landmarks, but it won't order food for you or handle emergencies. A Waymo spokesperson said they're always tinkering with features to make riding delightful, seamless, and useful. This isn't public yet, but it's an interesting direction. I mean, do we want our robotaxis to chat with us? I guess we'll find out. So while many of us are opening presents and enjoying time off, cybersecurity teams are gearing up for battle. Hackers know that between Christmas and New Year's, offices are quieter, security staff is reduced, and companies are vulnerable. Jacob Dorval, who's the global head of advisory services at Sophos, put it bluntly. He said, "I'm not going to try and rob a bank when there's a security guard standing out front. I'm going to wait until that guard leaves for the day." Makes sense, right? According to a November report from Sempris, 52% of ransomware attacks last year happened on weekends or holidays, and 78% of organizations reduced security staff during the holidays. That's a huge window of opportunity for attackers. So how do teams prepare? Carl Froggatt, who's the chief information officer at Deep Instinct and a former city exec, says they do all the major patches, IT upgrades, and training before Thanksgiving. Because once the holidays hit, hackers go after phishing, ransomware, and data theft when fewer people are watching the network. We've seen this play out before. The 2020 SolarWinds hack was uncovered right before Christmas. The Log4j vulnerability in 2021 was found weeks before the holiday. And last year, there was that Chinese breach of the US Treasury in late December. Sophos is keeping teams online and advising clients to check for unpatched devices and implement multi-factor authentication. Dorval says 9 times out of 10, attackers compromise you through low-hanging fruit. So the message is clear: patch your systems, use MFA, and don't assume you're safe just because it's the holidays. Oh, and AI agents might help alleviate team burnout by staying active when humans are off. That's one positive note. But intrusions during the holidays often go undetected until everyone's back at work. Stay vigilant out there. Alright, this last story is heavy, but it's important. A woman named Caitlin Nair, who was the head of user experience at an AI image generation startup, suffered what's being called AI-induced psychosis from obsessively using these tools. Back in 2023, Nair was spending up to 9 hours a day generating AI images of herself. At first, it felt magical, but it quickly became harmful. The distorted images started altering her body perception. She was comparing herself to these idealized, thin, perfect figures the AI was creating, and it spiraled into an obsession with improving her real appearance to match the AI versions. The dopamine hit from generating each new image became addictive, and even though she was already being treated for bipolar disorder, this triggered a manic episode. In one delusional moment, she saw an AI image of herself on a flying horse and believed she could actually fly. She almost jumped from her balcony, guided by imaginary voices. Thankfully, she reached out to friends, family, and a clinician who connected the breakdown to her work with AI. She left the startup and now directs SciMed Ventures, an investment fund focused on mental health that includes AI tools. But she uses them with much more respect and caution now. The article frames this in a broader mental health crisis linked to AI, mentioning other cases of delusions, psychiatric hospitalizations, and even suicides related to chatbots and image generators. Look, I think this story is a stark reminder that these tools are powerful, and we're still figuring out their psychological impacts. AI image generators can distort reality in ways that affect vulnerable people deeply. We need to take this seriously. This isn't just about technology, it's about human well-being. So there you have it, from massive corporate acquisitions to generational shifts in how we work with AI. From in-car chatbots to holiday hackers, and a sobering reminder about mental health and technology. The tech world never stops, not even on Christmas. We'll keep following these stories as they develop, and we'll be back with more updates soon. Thank you for staying informed with Digi Tech News. I'm Kylie Brooks. Have a wonderful holiday, stay curious, and we'll talk soon.